Long before the pyramids of Egypt touched the sky, before Rome, before Greece, before the books of the Bible and the Quran were ever written, the people of Africa carried with them spiritual systems that were not just religions, but entire ways of life. These were the first conversations between humans and the universe, the first search for meaning, balance, and destiny. And yet, the oldest black religion, born out of Africa's soil and soul, was slowly erased from history, hidden behind myths, silence, and the rewriting of the past. In the lands of Nubia, Kemet, Kush, and beyond, our ancestors did not worship in the way later faiths demanded. They didn't kneel in fear of a distant god but honored the balance of creation itself. To them, divinity lived in every river, every mountain, every ancestor whose spirit never died. Life and death were not opposites, they were doorways to the same eternal journey. They called upon their ancestors, the ones who came before them, believing that their blood carried wisdom that books could never hold. What many don't know is that African spirituality is the foundation of what the world later called religion. The idea of a divine creator, the concept of morality, the rituals of offering, the very notion of life after death, all of it was already alive in Africa thousands of years ago. In Egypt, or Kemet as it was known, the people honored Ma'at, the principle of truth, justice, and cosmic order. This wasn't a belief, it was a way of being. To live against Ma'at was to live against the universe itself. The weighing of the heart in the afterlife, a symbol seen in Egyptian texts, was not just a story, it was a warning that how you lived mattered for eternity. But Kemet was not alone. Across West Africa, in the Yoruba lands, the people honored the Orishas, divine forces of nature that guided human life. In the kingdom of Dahomey, the Vodun religion was born, later carried to the Americas by enslaved Africans who were forbidden to practice their faith. In the Congo cosmogram mapped the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, a sacred symbol that enslaved Africans carved into the wood of their cabins in America, holding on to what little they could. These were the oldest black religions, living, breathing traditions that connected humanity to the unseen. But when colonizers arrived, everything changed. Missionaries declared the old gods to be demons. Priests burned shrines, destroyed sacred groves, and forced conversions. The wisdom of thousands of years was labeled as superstition. Entire generations were taught to forget their ancestors and worship only what the colonizer handed them. And yet, the truth never fully died. It survived in whispers, in songs, in rituals practiced in secret. Even in the horrors of slavery, when Africans were torn from their homelands and scattered across the world, the old religions refused to vanish. They blended and transformed, hiding in plain sight. Voodoo in Haiti, Santeria in Cuba, Candomblé in Brazil, these were not foreign inventions, but African faiths reborn under oppression. The Orishas were given Catholic names to fool slave masters, but the people knew who they were truly praying to. Ogun still walked with warriors, Yemaya still guarded the seas, Shango still ruled with fire and thunder. And yet, the world continues to erase this history. They teach us about Greek gods, about Roman temples, about Norse myths, but rarely about the gods and goddesses of Africa. They tell us about Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, but rarely about the black spiritual traditions that laid the foundation for them all. Why? Because to acknowledge them is to admit that Africa was the cradle not only of humanity, but of human faith itself. This is the truth they never told. The oldest religion on earth was born in Africa. Long before Europe or Asia shaped their doctrines, Africa had already built temples, carved sacred texts, and created complex philosophies about life, death, and eternity. The Nile, the Congo, the Niger, these rivers were not just waters, they were lifelines of spiritual civilizations. And although colonization tried to bury that truth, it still beats in the drum, still rises in the dance, still whispers in the prayers of millions who may not even realize their faith carries African blood. So the next time you hear someone say Africa had no history, no religion, no philosophy, remember this. The world erased it because it was too powerful, too advanced, too unshakable to fit into the story they wanted us to believe. But the ancestors are still watching, still speaking, still waiting for us to remember. Because the oldest black religion was never truly erased. It lives inside us, and the truth will always rise again.